Oh, HS is in Vermont. Okay. And then it's in Wyoming.
Say what? You don't have to. You just go ahead. I don't even get it. It doesn't matter. Oh, hold up.
I'm supposed to be done.
When you pull it up, there's one that's not. No, I was looking at the wrong thing. Oh, it should have been included. I just saved it again.
Hi y'all on the live stream.
What?
I said hi y'all on the live
I
stream.
saved it. Should be saved. You have to close out of that.
Send it to me if that's not the case.
What internet is everybody connected to?
I'm connected to AT&T.
AT&T?
As in like my phone service.
And then just like try to open up a browser and it'll send you to the page to connect.
Oh, okay.
Everybody good?
Can I connect to internet for like 5 seconds? It's literally gonna take you 5 seconds.
Look at that, 3,000 judges. Oh.
What'd you say?
Founders Award.
We're
Kevin
just
was
not
like
gonna-
3.
We're just not gonna mention that because we weren't there, so.
We were right there. I was there.
Oh, you were? You didn't got it?
Oh, I wasn't. No, I wasn't there during the actual award. I was there when he tried to corral us for a group photo.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was on like.
Yeah, no, I was in
Okay.
Answer the question, who am I? Well, I confront it all the time.
And there's a way in which American and white and human become synonyms. That why can't we just treat each other as human beings? To me, when I hear from a white person, is why can't we all just pretend to be white people? I'll pretend you're a white person, and then you can pretend to be white. Why don't you eat what I eat? Why don't you drink what I drink? Why don't you think like I think? Why don't you feel like I feel? God damn it, I'm so sick and goddamn tired of hearing about that. I'm sick of that. That's what it means to be human being to me. That's what it means to be white. That's what it means to be American. Why don't you come the hell over here? That's what I hear every goddamn day. And you know that I can't come over there. You know that this skin and that this hair and that this way that I talk and that I think and I feel will never, ever get included because I'm unpalatable to this goddamn nation. I'm unpalatable. You cannot swallow me. You cannot taste me. You cannot feel me because you don't want to. You think that you can survive without me, but you can't, man. Norman Pritchard, Guy's Galaxy. Sound variegated through beneath lit. Sound variegated through beneath lit. Through sound beneath variegated lit. Sound variegated through beneath lit. Variegated sound through beneath lit dark. Variegated sound through beneath lit dark. Sound variegated through beneath lit. Variegated sound through beneath lit dark. Through variegated beneath sound lit. Through variegated beneath sound lit. Through beneath lit. Through beneath lit. Through beneath lit. Through beneath. Through beneath lit. Through beneath. Through beneath lit. Through beneath. Through beneath, 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 lit. Twainly ample of amongst. Twainly ample of amongst. Twainly ample of amongst. Twainly ample of amongst. And lit black beauty, beauty and beauty, beauty and beauty, beauty and beauty and lit black beauty and dark to stark, in dark to stark. In dark to stark, in dark to stark, in dark to stark, in dark to stark lit, in above beneath lit, above beneath lit, above beneath, above beneath, above beneath, above beneath lit, above beneath, 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 above beneath lit.
The epiphenomenology of blackness represents a scandal of the level of historical analysis cannot deal with the eligibility and intrinsic losses non-human humanity to call for resolutions and appeal to the movement of the black skeletons to modernity. Reason 12. The likeness notion of human black and foreign opinions grabbed on say by the U.S. Postal Service March Struggling Mag speaking of body blackness and black people manifest subjectivity. This acting subjectivity of human desire is not human, this subjectivity object not human, that is subjectively mag body legal and jurors acts do not resolve room trade slave historical linguistical pop culture representation like severe object is how by the disorderly funky repeal way potentially disease black body effect full state dominating conversation integrating black body to the country or being black object becoming inhuman the object of black objects cleaned up via the meta narrative trace the evolution of the graphic of the black body onto the national body thus pushing the exploration of the black object ontology and epistemology to the margin of blackness troubles resist aversion challenges the relationship between the legal and philosophical category of human and no subjectivity. Human never existed. How would these aesthetic productions be understood, encountered, read, and interpreted, read, yet misunderstood, misencountered, misread, and misinterpreted by critical apparatus created to encounter human aesthetic and intellectual production? This project intervenes in this conversation through its exploration of flexible subjectivity of black artists and scholars, and this call to goodwill politics and the status quo is a process of writing that inevitably reveals the materiality of black vertigo. The site of academic production becomes a microcosm of civil society. Wilderson in 11. The structural paradigmatic violence assumes black and search cognitive actions several referring to assumes scholarly efforts as well as a black scholar. I'm tasked with making sense of this violence without being overwhelmed and disoriented by writing must now be indexed with that which it sees narration while being ever mindful of the incomprehension of the writing will false the failure that is of interpretation when the indices to actually escape the narrative. One writing proceeds with fifth and starts with that little to do with the problem of building the thesis, finding methodology to make the cases I write. I am more aware of the rage and anger of my reader. I do I'm speaking to me, but not through me yet. There seems to be no other way to speak. I'm speaking through the voice and gaze of a mob of white Americans. If I write freedom fighters in my ear, they skim chairs. If I say prison reward, they chant cocktail. Their denunciations are sustained only by research, but they ring true within my painstaking actions. And this process of remediation continues. The drama of theoretical state, sanctioning settler colonialism, reifying the lie of liberation within the machinations of civil society. Patel in 14. Educational resource relies on vulnerable population just by various foci funding stream publication through justification, potential impact, improving said vulnerable population condition, net effects of pathologization of particular population, essentialized human condition, often obscuring information may not fit the justified framework that rigid sweet scientists know we get more money to keep telling Congress for solving the cerebral problem, such range of racial order only out exists only those in need of intervention or study, those who benefit from parental spots in society are not studying or researchers the norm. This pathologizes against the focus on the neediness of dispossessed population, a critical and ahistorical educational research is complicit in the maintenance of these realities by consistently justifying its work upstrata echoing pattern of duration to replace this predominant focus on the academic echoes of the genealogy of settler colonialism that seeks to erase in order to replace the order of replacement that cannot provide the access to higher status, ultimately reseating those with higher status. So we affirm black chance a temporal break in the line of coherence and emancipation. This fugitive act becomes a new axiom of blackness that evokes the end of civil society. Moten in 7. This instance of black poetry, black chant is a kind of traverse reenacting black camp, modern philosophy takes its own path, reference states where poetry breakdown at its own instantiation, and racial underground is beneath light, beneath literature and underground that is their ground in the de-establishment of their ground in unguarded, unregulated, let's say field, or gathering a possibility which a codifying lesbian ready to erupt the cities or only outskirts when it still are homes, still home. Blackness is a form, a garment, a continuing eruption against the very idea and representation of a deathly or death-driven nakedness, fatal fault means regulation to exist into a history, regularly punctuated by regulation as compensation and surplus of the payment of a massive and calculated debt by the ones who not only never promised, but who are also the ones who are owed, the ones who bear the trace of being owned. Considered in the following statement, there's nothing wrong with blackness. What if this were premium factor in new black states under action, psychological pathology, populations, polarization of the state or state race, and the axiom derived from the one-way, Thompson, Elgin, vulgarities, encryption, but not towards the trials to be the native of the slave, only so far as the future is recognized and bear life to turn out to compare, only so far as no intention to pay for the form, so far as such a life persists. The eclectic sampling of technique of black form tipped in the introduction magnet, dispossessive search for eternal different complexity or syntax was always and never so apparent that assertion is kind of self-indulgent, self-explanatory, superfluous. Such a search amounts to an attempt to refute claims of blackness as a atomic simplicity were never actually serious enough to refute, as they were made unfalsifiable without evidence by way of unreasonable, wholly rationalized motivation, bad faith, and dogmatic slumber becomes itself the dismissal of blackness. This appeal to techniques itself, a technique of regulation of governance that animates the ideology of uplift. Such instrumentality very quickly turns out or be turned in the interest of the empire. Artists against art in the interest of ready-made profits and a certain New York intellectuality, state of mind, of the United States of acceptance of the unoriginal nature of the American century who stole modern art from the ones who stole away its modern art. There's nothing wrong with this precisely insofar as there's something wrong, something off, something the government believes fugitively living in us that's constantly taken for the path of insanity. It's what the politics of being ready to die. What's premature death? Some people want to run other things, want to run all freedoms in the vision of escape. Escape is stolen life, stealing way in the confines in the form of the break. There's nothing wrong with us. The fat ones, the ones who are all out of compass, the ones who are not conscious when they listen less we can. The ones who manage to evade self-management in the enclosure, the ones without interest who bring the noise of the new general interest by refusing, the ones who refuse and productive labor is a call for recognition of work, also known as being good niggers, possibility, not labor is power. Niggers are the impossibility of possibility. Judy in 94. The OG step to these beliefs and bust them out. This is not the beginning of the end of black culture. You're already there wherever you find them. The nurturing of black culture, which is streaming, providing no beyond grasping of capitalism, no longer cannot be cultural authenticity, resistance, capital, and black folk are killed by their own will, faith, and will from be beyond by power. The black kill themselves by trying to conserve themselves on willful affect, the productive labor, body, subject, also knows where black folk have always been in defined relation to work with the way it works. There's modern circulating these days where black folk, where else can you find real black folk except for the kill fields? Real black folk are already dead, walking around, consuming themselves in search of that which is no longer possible, that which defines them, unshed. The kill fields are everywhere. Whoever's born after us and kill fields will belong to a higher history of the niggas that which emerges from the demise of human capital. What gets articulated in the field? Nigger loses value. Is labor. The niggas unemployed. Another boy walking around like a nigga who understands that all possibility converts from capital and capital to not derived from work. And this is Harneyton. We did speculate. They say our speculation is going to make things worse. We keep speculating. We're on the porch, on the corner, in the bar, in the stove, speculating. We're with others, speculating. We're in debt, bad debt with others. We've been speculating, banking on each other. We've been counting on each other, speculating about them. Our speculation is scattered among others, valued among others. We know a debt that is not to be paid. A debt we cannot calculate. A debt that is in the debt without credit. A debt without end is a queer debt. A black debt. A debt that plays in us, plays with us. This debt moves us in speculation. They say we can't speculate. That we're not ready, not qualified, too low to be made. They say we speculate. We have some kind of plan. They say we have no plan. We can have no plan because we have no policy. What's your alternative? What's your policy? They say you're sitting around like you have some plan, smiling, not doing anything. They ask if we know where the speculation is going to lead. Do we know what we're doing? Have we really thought it through? Imagine the consequence. We need to imagine a different world that tells you need to imagine change, you need to change, you need to be changed, you need to come up with a policy and stop acting like you already have a plan. But we just keep speculating. It's true, of course, we have a plan. The plans we're going to keep speculating. The plan is we're going to stay in debt to each other, deep in each other. The plan started yesterday, and the plan will start again tomorrow, before dark, after dark, when they turn around. But right now, I'm going to say they're speculating. My baby do not care if they're going to say there's something wrong with this. They're going to say there's something wrong with this. We're not following the policy, the family policy, the national policy, the policy debate. We're not keeping up policy we have to be made for us. Speculation is not for us. We need to be hooked up to credit, prepared, ready. We need to put our debt to work, they say, and stop speculating. No need to give our credit where it's due. Be reasonable, real estate, work and work for change. They tell us, but our speculation is wild. Our speculation grows and grows in the undercommons. Market and undercommons.
Alright, you ready?
Sure.
You said yeah, right?
Yeah, so
Okay.
go ahead.
Why vote AF?
Why not?
It's not an argument. Why vote AF?
Presumption.
Because of presumption. Got it.
That's it.
What's the role of the negative in this debate?
To refute the affirmative.
The role of the negative is to refute the affirmative. What does that mean?
Say what we did was bad.
To say what you do is bad. Okay, what is the black chant?
It's a new axiom of blackness that invokes the end of civil society.
I'm sorry, I really can't hear
It's
you.
a new axiom of blackness that invokes the end of civil society.
That invokes the end of civil society. What does that mean? What does that
What does it
look
mean?
like?
Yeah, it's like a flipping of pathology. Currently in the status quo, like blackness or black bodies are relegated, to like abjection via in this context.
I guess, why is that true? Why is it true that black people have been placed
I'll
a place
continue.
of
So in
abjection?
educational research patterns, like blackness, things like Black Lives Matters are like a call to humanity, i.e., like they're saying to the world, our lives do matter. Hey, look at us. And so that type of recognition,
that recognition
is
is
what
bad.
allows gratuitous violence to be constantly
So,
graphed
but you
onto
have
our
made a
bodies.
claim that the status quo, blackness is a scene of abjection. My question is, why is that true?
Why is that true?
Yes.
Because the paradigmatic violence that structures blackness is like it allows
So
for them
you're
to
explaining to me how the
constantly be exposed to
structure
gratuitous
sees
violence.
blackness. My question is, why is it true then that blackness is objection? My question is not, does the structure see it as objection? My question is, why is blackness actually objection?
That's not. Our argument isn't a stance on whether or not blackness occupies the position of abjection or doesn't. It's a question of how the world orients itself towards blackness.
No, I know,
and
but
our
that's why I
response
asked
should
you
be.
about.
Which is why we don't take a stance on whether or not
You-
blackness, the essence of blackness, is truly a politics.
So I guess my question will be, what will you take a stance on in this debate?
That we should be an antagonism to civil society.
That we should what?
That we should be an antagonism to civil society.
That
and
we should be an antagonism to civil society.
Black chant operates as that antagonism.
How do I then, with the role, if the role of the negative, as you say, is to say that the AF is bad, then am I supposed to say that we should not be an antagonism to civil society? I'm
Or
supposed to
say
like,
that the method in which we've been an antagonism isn't an antagonism, proves some type of solvency deficit, i.e. we can't do what we actually said we do. Like, there are multiple ways for you to be negative.
I'm trying to figure out those ways.
I mean, there are a lot of ways. Like,
Like?
you can prove disadds to the theory,
Disadds the theory,
right?
okay?
Solvency questions, counter methodologies.
Well, you have yet to give me a reason why the black chain actually resolves the structural antagonism to the black objection, i.e. you're just like, we just tell you a theory of black objection. I'm like, what do you do to resolve it? We're like, but the theory. What does that do to change the reason why blackness is objection? That was the original question. How do we know that blackness is objection?
Well, currently in the status quo, like in debate, the resolution enforces a particular.
I wasn't even asking about the resolution. I'm asking about your ass. Okay.
Okay, I'm sending out the 1 and C. It's gonna be 2 off.
Oh yeah,
send it
I
out,
forgot
but
you
I
had
can I if I reply to all?
If you
and
reply
just
on an
add
admin,
then
it'll be
okay.
attached to it.
What are the first few letters of the email?
Anthony, A-N.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Anthony
now,
Joseph, right?
because I'm not at my Supreme, so I need to get
You
my
haven't
stuff together.
attached it.
I have to reattach it.
Okay,
Yeah.
That'll be okay.
So reply all of that one. You don't have to add him anymore. Now attach it. He's he's in there. Now attach it.
You did. Mine is actually on Tupac's side. It's on the left.
All right, sit.
Lost Dog Cafe has some dessert. They have like bread pudding, chocolate cake.
These bitches like, can we count on you to strike next week? Here's a strike on CSU, you know that, right? That the strike for CSU is striking for finance, the teachers.
Are you not gonna be a strike?
I guess.
Ain't no one else is doing it. We did. No, like there's like a literal like teacher strike going on for across the university system.
They want to get more money. Right,
Pretty good.
it's gonna be on the news everywhere. I'm out here protesting. Oh shit, they can see me. Oh shit.
They rebuilt that CVS too.
They did.
It was real quick.
They should have. If I was CBS, I would have said nothing. Maybe that's my bias because I work there. But I'm concerned.
Everybody got it? Oh, we good? Oh, okay. Let's go.
All right. Interpretation: the affirmative must defend a contingent form of freedom in military presence. Military presence refers to the number of military personnel in the region. Putin 6. The U.S. military presence is measured by the number of shares of active military personnel in the region. This information is compiled by the DoD. Violation: the affirmative doesn't defend a contingent form of freedom. Standards: 1A is ground. The affirmative simply theorizes about offering an actionable thought experiment. This destroys the possibility of contestability. We are stuck with making less than adequate critiques of affirmative because they defend a theory that is all-encompassing. B is black debate. Debate offers the possibility of being able to discuss real-world strategies to deal with everyday ramifications of anti-blackness. The affirmative's deployment of pessimism gets stuck theorizing blackness and fails to offer viable strategies that leaves the place outside of this room helpless. Now, the C is switch side debate. They can read their app and the negative solves all of their offense. Switch side debate is key to social justice. Switch side debate does not cause disinterest or speaking from nowhere. Even devil's advocate positions are valuable for skill development and mutual testing. Alternatives leave us talking past each other. Advocating in a debate round is necessary. Haskell in 90. Detachment functions not by drawing passion, but to channel it to lie to ensure collisions of rival perspectives. Only as members set aside the perspective that comes to them, they engage in provoke mutual criticism. When the effort fails, we talk past one another, producing nothing. Consider the person who suspends her perceptions only to learn how opponents think so as to demolish their arguments. As long as the polemicist is truly engaged in thinking, the enemy he or she is able is being as objective as anyone. The person too enabled to his or her interpretation to entertain alternatives even for the sake of learning to defeat them fails to attack position. One must first inhabit those to habituate their intellectual abode that they cannot explore. Other can never be persuasive to anyone but fellow habitues. The powerful argument is the highest thinking I could call objective and neutrality plays no part. Now, switch side debate is key to offer the possibility of infusing solutions to material problems that the black community faces. Switch side debate is good to develop an understanding of a world that is bigger than you. There are a plethora of textures of blackness that exist that is only learned when we address specific concerns. The affirmative's dependence on theorizing blackness is ahistorical and fails to deal with black radical tradition that actually grounds the chant that they claim to affirm. Now, switch side debate is A, contextualized resolutional discussions is critical to deal with the material conservatism, to move away from the resolution is call upon the end of the debate community. B, debate community good, key to help black folk get affordable education. C, debate community good is a place of kinship that helps to teach young black adults how to navigate not just the academy but life. Debate community good fosters friendship relations that get black people out of the hood. Topic specific education is good. This year's particular topic helps to shed light on the militaristic policies and patterns of the USFG, to engage the topics to interrogate ways to liberate black folks from contingent forms of anti-blackness, i.e. policing, prison industrial complex, militarism, or military voluntarism. Next off.
I I met God the other day, and this is what I had to say to her. But first, my thoughts along the way. You see, to me, the subjective thoughts of freedom I've had most of my life resonate in a common notion that there really is no difference between wrong and right, and what's wrong to me is right to you, and what's wrong in God's eyes is just another perspective too. And I've told myself that we are all living proof that the truth of real freedom is to simply have a true freedom of truth. Then I suppose if this isn't true and we are all just finger puppets and God is screwing with both me and you, and if the truth, well then screw her to forget her loss, forget the Bible, forget the Catholics, forget the Jews, screw anyone who does anything in the Lord's name, forget her 10 commandments, and forget not shouting her name in vain. Seriously though? Either way, whether freedom is absolute or a facade of a God-made human brain, I say, do what feels good and enjoy the now and today. So what did I do along the way to meeting God, you say? Brace yourself, because this is exactly what I told her, straight to her face. She said, hello, my child, how are you feeling today? I said, God, I feel freaking great. This life is more than just okay. I mean, you know what I did along the way, but hear it from my mouth and the lack of conviction from my words, hear it to this day. I listen to loud music and damage my ears for years. I fill my lungs with toxic clouds of smoke, just stupid like dope, contemplating consequences that treated them like jokes. I damaged my brains with an array of narcotics, subjected myself to a list of voodoo tonics, sometimes just pure demonic stuff, and I loved every second of it to the point where I altered my already imbalanced chemicals beyond repair, and I said, and now it's out there for you to judge. To you, I'm probably just the Antichrist, and dang, it feels nice. I pierced, I stretched, and rooted my skin until the shape of my former self was beyond any contemplating, relating all to an expedition of self-expression, and that right there, to most, don't feel like a big mistake, but I mean, none of this does, at least not to me at the time. I mean, what else is there besides the now and today, and what else is there is more than sublime, and God said.
Resistance and blackness have become interchangeable in their goal of liberation of the public sphere. Such conflation maintains that blackness is black inferiority. Quashi in 12, the concept requires a shift in how we commonly understand blackness, which is often described as expressive, dramatic, and loud. These qualities inherently reflect an equivalence between resistance and blackness. Resistance is the dominant expectation we have of black culture. Blackness is not a term of intimacy, but a publicness. The public representation of black subjectivity exists for its social and political meaningfulness, rather than as a mark of the human individuality of the person who is black. Blackness is always supposed to tell us something about race or America or violence to hopelessness. The determination to see blackness only through a social public lens, as if there were no interior life, is racist. It comes from the language of racist severity, orders to practice intended to humanize black people. Common frameworks for thinking about blackness or limited resistance is too broad a term. It is not nuanced enough to characterize the totality of black culture and expression. Black women's everyday lives are not shaped entirely with this engagement with and resistance to the institution of slavery. The point here is not to dismiss the intensity, vulgarity, and slavery, violence on black people, but instead to restore a broader picture of the humanity of the people who were enslaved. The case for quiet is an argument against the limits of blackness as a concept. It's an everyday word, but it's also a conceptual. The notion of quiet is neither motionless nor without sound. Quiet is metaphor for the full range of one's inner life, one's desires, ambitions, hunger, vulnerabilities, fears. The inner life is not apolitical without social value, but neither is it determined entirely by the public. Quiet is inevitable. It is always there. The an aesthetic of quiet is not compatible with black culture. But notice and understanding requires a shift. Quiet is antithetical to how we think about black culture, by black people, racial blackness. Imagines black people as public subjects without identities formed and articulated, resistant in public. Such blackness is dramatic, symbolic, never for its own vagary, always representative, engaged with how it is imagined public. These characterizations of the legacy of racism they become the common way we understand and represent blackness. The idea of quiet can shift attention. What is interior? The shift can feel like a kind of heresy. The interior is thought of as apolitical or inexpressive. Distinguish the terms expression, the notion of public. The interior can be understood as a source of human action. That anything we do is shaping the range of desires and capacities of our inner life. The intent here is not to disregard these terms, but ask what else can we say about black culture? Can be how can quiet is framed for reading black culture supposed life that is not determined by narrative social world. All living is political. All living is not in protest, which seems such as disregard the richness of life. And black resistance based on cultural representation such as signifying doubleness and the mask solidify an image of publicity that flattens out oppression and allows the continuation of blackness as ontologically void. Quashi in 12 black cultures over-identified with an idea of expression that is geared toward a social evidence that has political aim expressive just the essence of black resistance. Resistance are different from black culture. In effect, is an effective role of the public sphere which is played. Ideas about white racial superiority formulated and articulated in public spaces make sense that public is both an act and a location would be integral to the struggle for racial equality. Black culture has been characterized largely with responses to racial dominance, so much so that resistance becomes its defining feature in expectation. Notions of how we think about black subjectivity, which is necessarily contrary and seemingly lacking in inner life. One result of dominance is the major concept used to discuss black culture, engaged largely with the capacity to support the idea of resistance. This concept say less and less about the interior of black subjectivity and leave us with the general constant that characterize the inner life that black subject seems to possess no interior. We're speaking of that in response to how the negatively constructed the social imagination is racial, gender, class, subject, black women's rule, development here to recall the secrets and protect the intersectionality of inner aspects of their life. The dynamics of dissemblance involved creating the appearance of disclosure, openness about themselves, about their feelings, while actually permitting an enigma. And they face a power, pervasive stereotypes and impairs that they create alternative self-image of the interior presence expressed, and just about because of the public dimensions of race, gender, and sex is withholding silence that is implied. Something kind of artificial performance reiterates essential publicness and black cultural identity, the semblance of double conscious esteem primed to help scrutinize and suppress potential of black identity. And the app takes the form of an appeal within the university, which the academy gladly accepts, knowing the proliferation of these discourses in the academy get co-opted by the science economy, the graveyards for radical potential. Only a radical rupture solved. UC Berkeley and United Customer Universities, just like the statement of social death traits that what we once knew would be acceptable forms of social conflicts. Let's talk about the flight, but always only managed for perpetually deliberate would be pushed about this forum. They are required to configure themselves to contain as the university steals into homogeneous meaning in life, then which serves merely as public relations mechanism for death. It's careless looks the freedom democracy designed to obscure the shift and decay in which our feet are planted. The university's graveyard is also a factory of meaning which produces civic life at the same time to the social death everywhere discourse to shape our desires and distress in the way except the electoral state discourse designed to make our very moments here together instead of legible fruitless demands. The university's machine which wants to grow, to accumulate, to expand, to absorb more and more of the living into peculiar and perverse machinery with their pure motives of knowledge for its own sake, the perpetuation of the blind inertia of meeting these discourses and research program play their own role, co-opting, getting rapid potential. The university gladly permits lectures on biopower. Market at biopower.
Alright, ready?
Yeah.
Alright, so why was the 1AC not an actionable thought experiment?
Sure, so the idea here is that there has to be something to contest. So just the idea that you are making, yeah, so just the idea that, say,
So
you're
why was
making a
the 1AC
speculation
not a testing
that
of
is
the
not,
app?
what?
Why was the 1NC in its entirety not a testing of the app?
Well, that's the debate, right?
well,
So it's like, if
we're
we are a
trying to
test
do-
event, it's a reason why you lose a debate. We have indicated that you need to be able to have a contingent freedom. The 1AC is literally like a
What's a
structural.
contingent freedom?
Yeah, so we indicate that there is a structural analysis that happens to things like anti-blackness. We'll give you that. But the ways in which different forms of violence happen contingently, i.e. the military presence that the resolution calls for, is a contingent freedom that we say you should have a discussion of.
Sure. Okay. Your last, your UC Berkeley card, the last line, it says, for an end to the values of social death, we need ruptures and self-propelled unmanaged movement of wild bodies. And then I'm pretty sure the card goes on to say we should take over as many classrooms. So like, I guess, like, what's the link to this card?
Just so you know, we didn't read that last section of the card, but
Sure.
it's referring specifically to the way that the university is specifically located such that any act of, like a speech act of resistance is
Why would this not also
co-opted. It doesn't
apply
really
to
matter
you?
what the content, but rather the form.
Why would this not apply to you?
Because
So-
I am a god, and I am a
Okay, so
Hashtag diva.
so what's blackness?
So Kwashi gives a certain indication of blackness as something that has, one, been scripted as a form of public resistance. That is a certain sort of image in the status quo.
Okay,
but
sorry,
then Kwashi also
what
indicates
are
that
the
there is an
links?
inherent
What are the links?
to the critique.
Yes.
So the idea is that the app perpetuates a form of image of blackness as resistance, which maintains this form
Why
of
So the
dehumanization.
antagonism with resistance?
Well,
so.
the first link would probably be the process question when I ask you, how do we know that blackness is not objection? You're like, that doesn't matter because we have to talk about how the structural antagonism labels us as a form of abjection. That is a way in which we allow for the
Why is that
public
resistance?
activist precedence that Kwashi indicates leads to a form of resentment, where we believe that American psychological discussion of what blackness is to recognize that inner was never taken away from us, that we were never abject, that we were always something. You indicate that we are not as a result of things. That's why, so to be antagonistic to something is to assume that there is something to negate in the first place. And we indicate that we were never taken away from that positionality of black interior. I don't know, yeah, that's the word I guess I'll use. That's it?
Yeah, that's what I think.
Is Berkeley still the
No, last time FiJo to Vermont. They had like a C before they.
This morning?
If you want to go to the final part.
When did we go to Chipotle?
That's why you have grad assistants.
You're nothing. Who's your grad assistant?
Max.
Oh, Max still
Didn't
there?
we have like a paper to do?
That was due today, which should be done already.
Oh, mercy.
post got messy fast. Yeah, I be dropping shit on my phone.
You from West Baltimore? That's why. I get it.
That's wild.
They ain't teach you how to eat right.
That's wild.
Yes. That's side of Baltimore.
Yeah, but we know it's so small.
You from Robo Junction?
No, Park Heights.
Oh my
God, for real?
Word.
That's not funny, Devin.
The only thing worse than Park Heights is what's that part that's south of Park Heights?
The two cards that you read is going to be all of you.
There's Brooklyn, right? There's another one. What is it called?
Parkville's rough.
Parkdale.
Yes.
Girl.
All you see is
Yale Heights. That's another one.
you ain't nothing. You ain't nothing.
Is that area that's
What?
It's like below Park Heights.
Yes. Yes.
Are you talking about over there by like Highlands Market? Like that area? Like by Howard Street?
No, it's south Baltimore. Not that, like even more south than Park Heights. Not Pigtown and that shit. It's like
Not Pigtown, not Sandtown. I don't know.
I can't remember because I don't go to such places.
I was gonna say I don't go to South Baltimore, so I don't know.
Those places.
My mother never let me travel that far. You teaching at Voodoo in the summer? You teaching at Voodoo? Didn't you teach that one time in the summer at the Voodoo summer camp?
I've taught several times.
But I'm saying, like, that was a summer ago, was it not? Or is it 2 summers ago? You haven't taught there in a minute?
The last time I taught, it was like the University of Baltimore or something.
Oh, you wasn't there when it was at Coppin? I don't mess with them no more.
List of neighborhoods in Baltimore.
Neighborhoods, sure.
Why you didn't say West Baltimore neighborhoods?
Oh, that's right. Cherry Hill. Cherry Hill.
That's not funny, Devin.
Yes. Cherry Hill.
You're nothing. You are nothing.
Yes. But I don't think that's the one I'm talking about though. But that's one of them.
Alright, I got 418.
Oh, my flow got cut.
I can't. No, you're not.
It's just fun. I just need a little bit of
I can't.
Damn. Well, how did this happen? Talking with Devin.
I think I'm thinking about Harlem Park.
Devin, seriously?
No. Not Harlem
See, I was
Park.
about to be petty for you, but you know.
You know what I'm saying? I'm just trying to live my life. It'd be great.
We can't be making up people,
Drop me
girl.
a gold,
We
okay?
can't be, we can't be making up people, girl.
No, I wasn't. I know I was talking about.
Oh, are there cards sent out?
Yeah, I'm saving it now.
Oh, okay.
I was just putting them in the same separate.
I was trying to figure out if you were just being fussy.
What were you talking about, baby?
It's around this area. I can't find it though. It's something called West something. Westport. That's what it is. Oh, terrible place.
Alright, it should be sent.
Have you seen
If
that
I get to the
light
second part of the
thing? Where
evidence,
it's like
it's
that's
highlighted
the
in green
it's
Westport.
like everything that touches
So
the light
everything that's
is
underlined.
Westport.
Let me
You never go there.
Westport. That place is the devil.
I don't understand why bathroom need double doors with a small space in between the doors, like a hallway. I don't understand the purpose of that. Especially when the doors open this way instead of one way. They're trying to track me from bed. I got locked in the bathroom. I had to wait for somebody else to come in.
What order? Oh, we don't go by that. This page. Okay.
Is that just case?
Yeah,
This case, you said?
the case page, yeah.
But the end.
I feel like that's what I'm being told to do. Of course, you're the ones that I'm just copy and paste the stuff over to one spot.
Where? Somebody do an affirmative and that's wrong.
Okay.
Everyone good?
Sorry, I'm gonna move closer. I really can't move the page. I'm ready.
Okay.
The role of the critics is to affirm the best methodology for antagonizing the violent regulatory matrix of society we produce. Antagonism through modes, theory of black chant, this is poetics. Guys, godlike language falling upon itself, a poetic break in the political vernacular. Mediation that the resolution enforces upon black bodies is evident in Victor's breakdown of the constant force production. Black innocence, which are Patel evidence isolations, problematic focus on brokenness. The abject of black chant serves as theoretical break in the language and the intelligibility of language and relationality, allowing for future the language reform past the confines. Ontological blackness producing a new mode of social life that collapses the empire's social life in the context of social death insofar as it allows for there to be a wholesale refusal to the very systems of value that make it possible for there to be a grafting abjectness to black bodies. Now the one he sees serves as a radical rupture of the resolution, narcissistic understanding of the topic, the very ideology of negative state action, and the topic assumes neutrality of the law and the violent cartography of blackness via the discussion, negative state action to resolve the problematized nature of blackness, i.e. reduce military presence in the Horn of Africa, but our Patel evidence isolates this linear line, implicates this linear line which she isolates the status quo research and engagement models like this gloss over the matrix of violence
question our very orientation of militarism. When we advocate outside of these spaces, we are understanding how that violence grounds itself, which makes militarism a subversive act beyond simple denotative presence and it creates a serial policy failure in the ways that we organize outside of these spaces, i.e. activism and revolutionary politics as a means to deconstruct military violence when we don't understand all of the fluid ways in which militarism expands itself. So you can flow, you can vote out permutation, because we were always already a discussion of a contingent mode of freedom, i.e. contingent mode of violence that in relationship to the way that the academy sutures discussions of anti-blackness into the very concept of resolution. We are a contingent freedom insofar as our Moan evidence already articulates that we need to be a wholesale refusal. Our Moan Patel evidence as well as the Judy evidence already articulates that we need to be a wholesale refusal of that line of research that says there's a certain pathology that we need to continue within these spaces. Rather, we should just say that there's nothing wrong with blackness insofar as there is something wrong with blackness insofar as that something wrong with blackness is one that cannot be a part of the world, and thus we should refuse to be a part of it. Becomes a pedagogical and epistemic shift that allows for us to actually matriculate politics into our community. And our counter-interpretation is the affirmative should defend an example of the resolution from an ontological standpoint of those bodies affected by military presence is key to analyzing the nuances and mechanisms of military presence that is lost, and the bureaucratic focus on the anti-black statements machination just preserves negative ground for debatability and still upholds policy education. Now this is important because all the switch side arguments are predicated off the ability to talk about the textures of blackness. Our Moan evidence are probably access a better our Moan evidence as well as our reason evidence probably accesses better proximity question as to how blackness has textures within the academic canon, which is the reason why you prefer the affirmative, because we are the only ones that are relating the ways that violence matriculates within these spaces and how we should respond to it, how we should produce politics of freedom, which is a politics we draw. Now the only other argument are they say that our theory is all-encompassing. The one I think we take a very specific analysis as to how black Chin, i.e. the politics of refusal and withdrawal is sutured into the space. It isn't all-encompassing, but rather a very specified notion as to how we need to respond within these spaces. They also say that they also say through their Haskell and 90 evidence that detachment is problematic because it creates talking past each other. But one, there's no internal link to a detachment argument because they're the ones who directly avoided the discussion insofar as how the resolution forces us to commit ourselves to a particular notion or direction of research, which inevitably produces violence, which is the reason why we never closed that door. They did, which probably the reason why they internally themselves they linked themselves back into the switch side argument. Now it's also problematic. It's also problematic that they say that first of all, there's no offense to this community question because community claim because one, we chop it up in it. We can chop it up in these spaces inevitably, but it doesn't resolve the material implications as to how we produce particular modes of research within these spaces, which proximity claim as to how materially we need to react to different modes of violence, which probably is a better internal link to their the perceived impact that they could go for, because it becomes a question of how do black people respond to the modes of violence that are in this space. Now the Judy and Hardy evidence sort of reason why they lose this debate. They lose because they extend the killing fields into debate where we are made to be slaves to the pedagogical orientation of the world through their call for productivity. Every time that they say that we are untopical, that we do not provide a mode of engagement, i.e. our relationship to what their interpretation is, what they are really saying is that you do not work in the manner that you were supposed to, that your discussion of blackness is unproductive for us. This is very labeling of the bad nigger that situates violence into our flesh when we deny the call for labor, that the world kills. This is precisely how slave catcher taught niggas with their freedom papers and brought them back to the plantation, because the world relies on niggers continued production of labor. Their argument becomes a parasitic ethic to black existence, means we have independent terminal impact that becomes a voting issue. Reject their ethic as a good nigger in favor of the nigga. Now they make the argument one, there's no trade-off between the negative stance on the negative stance on godness and the affirmative orientation towards withdrawal or politics of withdrawal. You can prefer the permutation on this question because they have not produced a to the pedagogy of the affirmative that says we need to have a particular disorientation or non-relationship to the way that research sutures anti-black violence. Their quasi evidence doesn't speak to the affirmative because they conflate antagonism with resistance. There is no link antagonism per the affirmative is not the act of resistance, but rather act of withdrawal, because the way that the world functions is that it must incorporate the slave into the killing fields. It must incorporate the nigger into a product of production. What happens when the slave refuses to work? What happens when the slave moves beyond the idea of value, that they should be a production, that they should scream their innocence, that they should say Black Lives Matter, but rather refuses the world in which that evaluation makes it possible for humanism to suture itself, is precisely how withdrawal becomes a politics of quietness that inevitably accesses the argument that they make. We also don't make any cultural authenticity arguments because we don't assume that there's a homogeneous nature of blackness, but rather that there are textures, which is precisely why we affirm being niggas. Now, the only other argument that they make that is possibly offensive is that expression and the status quo, i.e. loudness, projecting ourselves, being resistant, having political aims is problematic. But one, the affirmative is actually antithetical to the very ideology of a political aim, because a political aim, per our Rees evidence, assumes that there's a possibility for us to be situated within this world, but that we can have access to humanism. This very notion of humanism, i.e. politics, is one that inevitably sutures liberalistic discussions as to how subjectivity can be afforded to the slave. But this also assumes that the world is structured in a way that is the antithesis to that very position, which is the reason why our non-recognition, our withdrawal, is that which is anti-political, which doesn't link to their argument. That the last piece of evidence that they raise is UC Berkeley, and not evidence, but one, our project is one that's antithetical to the very notion of the way the university operates, insofar as our Patel evidence operates as uniqueness claim as to how incorporation is the politics of the university, not expulsion. If we are a withdrawal from the very ideology of multiculturalism or inclusion, i.e. we produce research or authentic modalities of blackness, then that cuts at the very ways in which the university resituates itself. It also assumes that the university is in everywhere and everywhere, insofar as the killing field is the inescapable positionality of the world in terms of value, which is the reason why you prefer the affirmative on this question, because we're the only ones who provide an analysis as to how there's a shift away from that question. And blackness has become the reality of nothing. There's no authentic expression. Blackness there can be articulated in civil society. We must take pessimism seriously. Only complete withdrawal can exhaust the political possibilities of the present. Open a new space for black life that's cold. And 16th formulation of agreement in spatial terms where black life is not living in a world that world is living but is lived. And the underground and outer space optimism searches through the murky depths, whereas pessimism channels the alien force of the outside against the philosophical promise of decisive judgment, psychoanalytic assertion, power of the unconscious. It's just a non-belief in negativity. Such negativity is not the dialectical overcoming of anti-blackness or a structural relation to a potential product. Laurel's negation is the pessimistic totality and insufficiency in a posture. Blackness is concealed its determination in the rest universe cryptically. The black universe is beyond ontology. Such blackness is not the absence of whiteness. Blackness has its own presence. Marquette has its own presence.
Hold up before y'all start questions.
Where did you mark it again?
Blackness has its own presence.
Blackness has its own presence. Done. You ready? Okay, so the Culp evidence talks about withdrawal, and you characterized the affirmative as a form of withdrawal several times. What does that withdrawal look like in material terms?
The refusal to produce the research the resolution calls.
Why is that necessarily withdrawal, or why is refusal in general necessarily a withdrawal? If you continue to debate, or it's
not about debate. It's about the research, the direction in which we discuss certain things.
Okay.
We say that we refuse to go.
Sure.
In that
What
direction.
makes a form of research a form of withdrawal, and what makes it not?
Our Patel evidence isolates that. Our Patel evidence, as well as the Moten evidence, isolates that inclusion, or the politics of inclusion, is one where we find ourselves within the world, i.e. research the abjectness, the brokenness of the body, say that we can provide a corrective to it.
So
withdrawal would thus be the non-move towards like filling in that hole.
Sure.
That rather blackness should be a site of
So research that
becoming
talks about inclusion is a form of productive research, but research that talks about not trying to be included is a form of non-productive research.
I'm sorry, what's the question?
Is that correct, that dichotomy that you're drawing? There is a form of research that leads to inclusion or talks about inclusion, that's bad, that is productive. Anything that is not that, that's talking about objection, that is not productive.
Wait, what do you mean by objection?
Abjection, whatever you mean by objection. Your theorization of blackness is objection.
We say refusal, yeah.
Right, exactly. Okay, sure. So, let's see. I want to talk about this antagonism stuff. So I think you said the role of the critic is how to antagonize. What was that again?
Affirm the best antagonism to the locality.
Affirm the best antagonism
Civil society.
To the locality of civil society. How do you determine where the locality of civil society is and what is antagonistic to it?
It's right here. We're the only ones.
So civil society is.
One, to answer the second part of your question, we're the only ones who have given definitions as to how civil society functions here. What looks like an antagonism.
Okay, so what is antagonism then?
The withdrawal. The refusal to produce the research that the status quo says.
Okay, so antagonism is saying that your research will not talk about inclusion or lead to any.
It's a non-research. It's not research.
What does it mean to be a non-research? Like you're reading cards, you're talking about certain theorizations of thought.
We're giving interpretation of research. Research is the pathologization, in the status quo is the pathologization of abject bodies via patella.
So why is your cult
research is a what?
It's the
Pathologization
pathologization of abject bodies via
What is an abject body?
That which is marked as outside of society.
Which
like
is?
The marginal. Black bodies, blackness.
So why is that a suitable definition for research? The path of pathologization of abject bodies. Like you're reading a new card from this year. Culp Evidence is talking about this. Why is that necessarily a good dichotomization?
That's not Patel's definition of what research is.
Right. I'm saying why is that a good definition? Why is that good?
It's the only one that's presented. So
I'm sending this to you all. And I don't know about y'all, but I flowed the stuff where they were supposed to go. So I stopped flowing T stuff on the T, and then I went to the K.
I flow straight down.
Well, I'm gonna let you know when to move.
I thought that's what was, okay, that's good. If you want me to go back to fall down, but I don't care.
I do. I actually would like for you
to blow it to, okay.
So where are you going down?
I'm doing framework and then the K.
Okay.
you said you emailed it already?
I'm doing it right now.
Okay.
It's been sent. No, I think I'm waiting for whoever to tell me that they all got the stuff up.
I'm opening it.
Y'all got it up?
Not yet.
Okay, now we are waiting for you, Jill. Oh. Okay, cool, we are ready.
Yeah.
The way you should think about this round is the question of what is the best model of debate? They should understand operators. This had to the affirmative interpretation while not linking to any of their office. We universally agree that militarism is bad. The black chain is a good idea, but our argument is to preclude these arguments. Our argument is that you only have to link to specific contingent action that can be negated and not a theory. Our impact outweighs and turns all of their office framework becomes a floor and not a ceiling that only helps us aid and strengthen discussion of materiality and black life and black life. Now, I think it's really important to have a discussion. Our interpretation is not that of status quo debate model, but rather we have indicated that we are also rejecting rejection of policy discussion, but rather we indicate that there is a way in which we can reframe that political discussion through things like social debate, which is the reason why our interpretation is going to be net better. Now, social debate is good and forces self-reflexivity. That's Rashad Evans at 15. The debaters should benefit from social debate, so it requires that they engage in topics that may not be otherwise engaged when it's more like it's considered the personal conviction outside the debate round more than they are to consider the resolution outside of the debate round there, or benefits of defending the interpretation of the resolution that is requires you to consider something that you may not have otherwise considered. Social debate creates a unique opportunity for self-responsibility. The resolution does not require you to suppress your identity or conviction, but it is instead an opportunity to infuse the identity and those convictions within the resolution. The resolution is an opportunity for you to define your personal conviction and put your identity politics again instead of relying exclusively on identity politics. If you are socially opposed to the resolution, you get to launch complaints, or you get to launch those complaints on the negative to come in to yourself to the resolution is key. Preserve your own negative ground and engage in critique of resolutions. Social debate is the only way to organize fair debate, and there must be a strict requirements to defend the resolution lawful to fair and predictable in the negative ground. We need all protecting all people to engage in all debates. For social facilitates that. Now I think the choice equals the ground standard coming out of the debate indicates that there is a need for us to have a ground to be able to negate the act. Process indicates that Corey indicates that the reason Anthony indicates that the reason why we vote F is because of presumption. That's not a reason why you should be able to win, but probably it's the reason why you vote on presumption. When it's at the after the affirmative sign, it's simply an affirmation of theory. They don't do anything vote negative because they lack a citizenship. They lack a reason to vote after they're not a black champ. The black chain is based within a rich historical concept of black substitution, of which indicate that you are theoretical discussion of black chain without actually engaging in. You should have to make them prove that they do something. Theorizing of the black is not enough. Now listen, we are not policy framework, which means that any of the Harney and Moen as well as the Reeves evidence do not apply to specificity of this black framework. We indicate that there is a way in which we have to understand how violence operates. That you read the role of the critics argument. But one is probably links to the question set, but I'll do that later. The second is that we indicate that your role of the critic is one that is absent as long as it's not grounded within the resolution as well. And the role we're when the topic education is good, you have conceded our interpretation that military presence is one that is military presence is one that is based within military presence. You have conceded our interpretation of military presence, which probably means that all of your discussion of research is not that are not grounded with the resolution become problematic. Even if you are right that research is good and the object is not in a debate competitive activity, you have to be grounded within the borders in which we have to have discussion. Is probably the reason why your discussion become problematic for the community. Now you say that now we say the topic of education is good. Probably is going to be key to frame your activism. You go for activism is good, but you have to see that the key internal link to activism for black activism is through discussions that are grounded within contingent freedoms, i.e. having a discussion about the ways in which we can resolve military presence, resolve the entirety of the act, especially in places like Ferguson, where people have been able to use black children, you have discussions of the ways in which violence operates. Probably the reason why we are good at you indicate that you're subversive, cool thing, but that subversive should not happen on the front. The second is that because we indicate that subversive is in concept of things like Wilderson and the structural antagonism is a negative ground, because we should be able to have a discussion of the ways in which the resolution is bad, not you. Now your second is that probably the subversive nature of the one is he probably links harder to the question debate, but I'll do that later. You indicate that we. Now you say permutation. You go, no, you don't get permutation. This is a T debate. You have to win. It means that you default to a competing interpretation paradigm in a discussion of the way that has grounded with the resolution. We indicate that our interpretation is not better. Your permutation indicates that you are from a contingent freedom. We indicate that no, you're wrong, or you are not. Especially in the world where you indicate that your role of the critic is one that's rooted within that structural antagonism. Listen, the 1AC is literally like anti-blackness meant that black people are objected. So therefore, we should speak no. So fucking what? What the hell does that do? How do I negate that theorization of the ways in which anti-blackness operates? That is probably the reason why we indicate that you're problematic, and you indicate that the part of your counter-interpretation is to defend the resolution through ontological analysis. We indicate that no, that's negative ground, because the ways in which the resolution operates. Second is that you are not a discussion of the resolution, but rather you are a discussion of the broad ways in which violence happens. So there's a push into body. Your Moten evidence actually goes our way, because it indicates the ways in which we have to have there are textures within blackness, which probably is the reason why you can defend a contingent freedom. We can have a way in which you can negate it. Probably means that you don't get the whole theory of anti-blackness in debate. You indicate that we are from a deep attachment. No, you are not. We know we are not, because we indicate that literally all of the offense that Corey goes for in the 2AC is all applicable to why policy research is problematic, and not a discussion of the ways in which have a discussion of contingent freedom is good, which is the reason why we also don't link to the Judy evidence, because we don't even indicate that your method of solvency has to be one that's productive, but it has to be a way in which we can negate it, which is the reason why you lose this debate. Yeah. Oh, go to the case. The act is public expression of black resistance through performances, fantasy, of dominant culture that does not mean that black resistance is inherently bad, but it's the dominant perspective of the blackness that is white imagination, status quo black is portrayed as monolith and public that's solely performative resistance. Now listen, I am a God is one that resolves the entirety of the act because they have conceded that the ability for you to indicate that you are a God is one that is not linked to any of the humanist notion that either Judy or Patel indicates, but rather is one that transcends the notion of humanity in the first probably means that we are able to resolve the entirety of the act's impact. Now, the continuing of the image, pressure, dominant control, perception, black instead of the self-defining black identity understanding of and nuances of the interior black life, and say we should embrace the quiet to understand our oneness and reclaim agency to surrender one and T's conversation. The one and T's conversation was never from anyone else to listen, but rather was one and T was written and performed as an act as a prayer, which is going to be key for why we can have forms of communication, but that has to be interior and not outside. Now listen, there's a difference that's created through questions and one and T. Anthony and Corey indicate that that blackness is abjecting the status quo. You have conceded a uniqueness in that indicates that logic is one that is told through the white American psyche that constantly tells us that we are objection. We indicate that we have criticized that notion in the first. We are not objective. We were gods from the beginning. To indicate to the one AC indicates that we should be a form of refusal of what we were never taken away. That social antagonism, that social life is one that was already inherent to us, which is probably a reason why we indicate that you are a form of resentment, because it means that your theory and your resistance is one that will always be attached and resistant on the structural antagonism of anti-blackness, whereas we indicate that blackness is one that's independent of that theorization. That's probably a reason why modernity didn't strip our agency. Rather, we've had it all along. It's just a question of whether or not we look internally to private in order to understand our oneness instead of eliminating blackness and perpetual suffering and locking position into its modernity. Trick was to make bodies to believe that that these were split into the body and the spirit, but the modernity could not strip the spirit of Africans even after the slave trade because of the ways in which we were still God. We did not need a certain affirmation in order to tell. The only question that you is whether or not performing a black resistance in public. We have uniqueness. Why this bad now? That is no well known. Suffers from the forgetfulness of being to which we alluded in the Western philosophy to its present impasse. The epistemologically speaking, the West lacks the transcendent Western rationalism is placed onto Cogito outside of empirical object man till life was no longer organically connected and interwoven with concepts. Thus, the really split into the two separate spheres with the one that of the mind, which contained the intellectual determination, that one of the other being that which we receive them. What I'm wondering is whether the near dehumanization of Africans were there were problems through slavery and colonialism will somehow refracted the reflections of Western philosophy and the problem of being the history carries an object that excludes any reversal of the present. The philosophers' historical location of the aspect of his or her conceptualization of historical location comprises not in the events of what his philosopher is consciously aware, but in addition everything that gives consideration to his or her epoch. Therefore, it's almost possible to read philosophy as a mode through which historical reality becomes conscious. The constant layer of the historical reality that is philosophy is unconscious in the form of repressed black people in the perception of being that's hidden within historical memory. Probably is the reason why you are not a form of quietness, but rather that structural antagonism is one that assumes that you have something to be antagonized to. Our argument that no, you do not. It's one that means that you will always be attached to the liberal humanist grammar. The liberal humanist grammar of anti-blackness means that you only suture the ways in which anti-blackness allows for the perception of black culture as always resistant and always antagonistic to certain locations. The reason why your withdrawal actually locks you into the cycle that allows for Western rationalism to continue in the first place. That's probably a reason why you read the blackness is nothing. It's really nothing. No, we indicate that you are wrong to claim that blackness is nothing. Is to believe the lies that were told by white people, by Western epistemology in the first place. Probably indicates that we are something. We are God.
Are you good?
Yep.
Alright, so was your 2NC in response to something?
I don't even know what that means. There are two parts of the debate.
Was the 2NC responsive to something?
I'm sorry?
Was it responsive to something?
There are two parts of this debate. Which part are you talking about?
No, I'm just in totality. Was the 2NC responsive?
Framework is responsible to the AF, and so is the K.
So I guess I'm trying to figure out what is resistance, like what is defined as resistance.
So, because specific to the AF, we indicate that the 1EC starts from a positionality of abjection of blackness.
Well, your quasi evidence isn't about the AF; it's just about black resistance.
Well, that's what debate is about.
I'm just asking about the definition of resistance right now.
What?
I'm just asking about the definition of resistance right now.
Yeah. So quasi indicates that when you I can read the line to you, but the definition which I'm giving is that when you attach yourself in opposition to something, that is why you are resistant.
Right, so is the 2NC in opposition to the 2AC?
I don't even know what that means.
Did you read it as a response or an answer to the 2AC?
It's the negate, that's the debate. to negate the act. That's what you said.
Right. So I'm trying to figure out how do you get out of this link
So
differential?
the
for
question is
resistance?
not, is opposition
Why won't you-
always
why didn't you
bad? The
just
question
perform the
is when
politics of
opposition
quiet
is
that your
attached to
quasi evidence
structural
calls for?
antagonism that tells blackness that they are objective,
Right.
that
Your
is the
quasi
link.
evidence indicts like black expression, like being loud, etc. responses. Is
You
being
are
problematic.
assuming
I'm
like
trying to figure out why didn't
a
you just
narrow
why
conception of
wasn't
what
no,
loudness
that's
means.
precisely
Like
what the
Quashi
quasi
isn't
evidence
in
is.
limit
Why
saying
didn't you
that
just perform the politics of quietness?
Quashi isn't saying that we shouldn't speak. That's not what that means. Quashi is indicating that when you speak and attach that to a form of resistance to something. So the statement of
Right, so
I
did you
am
resist
God.
the 2AC?
Wait, listen. So the 1AC performance, that conversation
Right, that
that happened
doesn't
with
answer my
God was a conversation with myself, an internal
what is
conversation
being?
that was never attached to anything else.
is
It can
being?
never be attached to anything because I'm
What
always
is being?
interiorly God.
What is being?
What do you mean? What is being?
Your null evidence that you
Oh yeah.
need. What's
So
being?
the null evidence indicates that the status quo Western rationalism is one that created a dichotomy between the mind and the body, which assumed that being was stripped from through like things like slavery and
That didn't answer my
colonialism.
question. What is
I
being?
think it does.
No, it didn't. What is being?
Okay. I think it does. So
What
I
is
can
being?
keep
You
going
just
with
said that
now.
it was a separation of the mind and body. That,
Yeah,
Like
so
essentialized being. What is being?
So status quo indicates that being is one that is attached to the creation of things like slavery and colonialism. Noel indicates that
attached to
it
it.
is.
What
let me
is
finish.
being?
Noel
That didn't answer my
indicates that the being is one that is not attached to either the mind or the body, but is an internal experience.
Okay, cool. I guess. No, I'm good.
I'm gonna take this next like 15 seconds of prep.
Are y'all taking a rep?
The rest of the process.
No, that's it. That's no. We're time prep. We're time prep. You can take it.
Sure. Just gonna get this started. Okay, and prep.
9:43 left.
I'm sending out one of my cards.
How much you got left?
9:43.
So it's gonna be in the K, and I'm gonna start with the perm, and then go to like links and impact stuff.
Say one more time, sorry.
On the K, I'm gonna start with the perm and go to like link stuff.
Okay.
Is everybody good?
They don't get a perm in a world in which their impacts, all the impacts of the alternative are returned to the app. It means that Quashi's analysis of the nature of blackness, how it is stripped in modernity, is a direct trade-off with the public display of the affirmative and the nurturing of the interiority of the alternative. You have to be able to decide between that publicity or the interiority of the alternative in this debate. Now, they have started from the wrong position. They have theorized blackness as objection, which means that they have started from a status quo stripping of modernity of blackness, whereas the alternative starts from the point of view of the of blackness as never having been lost, of subjectivity as never having been lost. This also feeds into the image of blackness as resistance, which is key to the link work that I'm going to do here. This is indicated in the Quashi cards that I read in the 1NC. The first link is the question of discourse and representation. Now, Quashi is clear that black relationality was created not from an abstract telos in modernity, but rather from specific representations of public discourse that happened in modernity. Now, that means that whenever black bodies attempt to resist in a public manner in this system, it is consumed to the same image of resistance, of resistance and opposition, and reifies the violence of modernity in an anti-black world. Now, this image is ahistorical. It does not explain the history of black existence according to Quashi, but is rather only a scripting onto black existence. But that differentiation is key because there has to be a distinction between the question of the interiority of black subjectivity and the way that modernity stripped resistance onto black bodies. Now, a second specific link is the use of the video in this round. They specifically conceded to make this round specifically public for the rest of the internet to be able to watch because it is made more comprehensible as a form of public resistance. Now, this does not link to the alternative because the alternative is not a representation of a form of affect. It is not a call for any form of identification, but rather that Vita's prayer cannot have this form of affective connection to the audience because it is made incomprehensible to focus on the interior rather than a certain kind of persuasiveness in the exterior. Now, the next link is going to be the question of resistance versus antagonism. This is not something that goes their way because modernity has constructed the superior humans and those which those which are deemed antagonistic to that superior human. That is the way that modernity came into being in the status quo. Now, this representational basis means all affirmations of antagonism become scripted as opposition. It is not necessarily that they have tried to situate themselves in an oppositional manner, but rather that their antagonistic basis for the affirmative gets scripted into that manner. We are saying that that form of scripting and that allowance for a public interpolation of that is bad and should be rejected. Now, that means that they play into that sort of Euro-American understanding of dehumanization and directly trades off of the recognition of the interiority of blackness and limits the conceptualization of blackness. Now, the act performance of resistance maintains a system of expressiveness that constitutes an erasure of blackness in public discourse. Such a move reinscribes the status void of humanity and freedom. Quashi and 12 quiet will need to be understood as a quality or sensibility of being as a matter of expression. Such expressive is quiet, but instead it's the expression of the interior. Quiet of the person represents the broad scope as her inner life symbolizes, and if interior expresses some of the capacity of the interior beyond the public face of stereotype limited imagination, the locus at which self-interrogation takes place, the interior is expansive, creative, impulsive, and dangerous. It's not subject to one's control, but instead has to be taken on its own terms. The interior is neither resisted nor overdetermined by the vagaries of the outer world. The interior is articulate and meaningful to the social impact. Quiet, then, is an inexpressible expressiveness that can appear publicly, have an effect, social and political meaning, challenge, and counter social discourse. Yet none of this is its aim or essence. Quiet is an expressiveness that is not consumed with resistance. Silence often denotes something that is suppressed or repressed. Quiet is present. Silence can be expressed, but its expression is often based on refusal. Approach is not wildness. The interest is quiet arrives because the trouble posed by public expression, particularly the assumption of black culture's predominantly resistance characterization, ends up simplifying blackness. The problem here is not expressiveness, but the black expressiveness is so tethered to what is public discourse of resistance. There is still an important question about the other qualities of black culture that are overwhelmed by resistance status. What else beyond resistance can be said about black culture and subjectivity? Quarrel is in the way the public is a chokehold on black culture. It's way hard to imagine conceptualization of blackness and already envision itself, and the humanist struggle to be free within the context set by publicists is precisely the need for a concept of interiority, that it can support representations of blackness that are irreverent, messy, complicated representations that have greater human texture and specificity than the broad captured resistance can offer. The idea of an aesthetic quiet might seem forward or counterintuitive to black culture, but it's not. There is a strong contemplative tradition in black culture, a tradition inspired by the existential struggle of living within the confines of racial identity. Quiet is rigidity and invitation to consider black cultural identity from somewhere other than conceptual basis. We have come to accept this exploration, this reach toward the inner life quiet makes possible accepting the undisputed dignity of its humanity. Now, this is also a turn to their totalization of blackness arguments because this means that they are not a specific understanding the ways that blackness affects different textures, but rather that they are a homogenization of the question of blackness and only allows that to be more interpolated into modernity. This also means that there are not a withdrawal, but rather a step away from the possibility of withdrawal into interiority. The alt is the only possibility for withdrawal. The affirmative is only moving further into the public sphere, which only allows this scripting to take place. Now, that means that they do not have to be the ones to be creating this concept of authenticity or inauthenticity for blackness, but rather that they simply fall prey to the status quo scripting of that authority. That also means that it's not specifically the content of the affirmative, but also the form that is sutured into the question of politics. This means that they don't have to say that they are incorporation of a certain sort of political strategy, but rather that they are simply publicly resisting as a form of being tied with political, according to Quashi.
418.
What?
418. Sorry. this time.
My girlfriend got me for Christmas.
Okay, where did your girlfriend get this from?
She used to work at Best Buy, so she got like a discount.
Okay, Best Buy.
I think they cost like $300 something.
Oh no, never mind. I'll be there. I'll be damned if I ever spend that much money on a pair.
Yeah, I like left from here yesterday, and I was like,
If I was your girlfriend, I would beat your ass. I would hurt you. If you were to lose those $300 headphones.
oh, actually, yeah.
If I was your girl, it'd be me and you. We'd be like, where is my money?
Alright, at page.
Just give me 5 seconds.
Go ahead.
question.
You know what I'm saying?
We didn't do this.
But I prefer to, you know what I'm saying? If there was speaker beds. What's the order?
Case, bitch.
Okay. See, I see what we're doing now. Okay.
Flow's just a series of monologues.
Everyone ready? Vote affirm because there is no disadvantage to our theory of black change asserts a theoretical break from the normative pathologized language that inevitably resituates the locus of violence on the limit of black. The one he understands the paradigm of blackness as performance should be understood through the diasporic chaotic nature of life, not just the phenotypical register of black and white, but develop the expanse on the notion of what it means to inhabit the crazy nonsensical race language of the not into the forced production of instances or representation, what it means to occupy existence without standing for no standpoint. The role of the judge for the best method for antagonizing locality of civil society only our robust discussion of how the academy is instantiated by knowledge production now reveals the materiality of black political arguments, the structural paradigm concepts assumes the black objects recreated at the site of proactive political discourse. Victor's discussion of the topic affirm shows us that affirming resistance through art that has no value sustains our future fluctuation so far as already recognized the position of being that is put onto us comes from our refusal to withdraw from the world of value humanity. What is primitive acts of new studies sit around the question there is nothing wrong with blackness, which means our flipping of pathologies and external net benefit to the alternatives to the affirmative truths that are becoming understands as lacks the inherent antithesis to being, which is why being and the human never existed, which is a process of becoming, which means all other arguments about how which is the reason why all their focus on things like on the focus on being is the reason why it doesn't make any sense. It's the reason it doesn't link to that. They also it also means that we want our theory of the affirmed should prioritize this unique understanding of cultural authenticity, support the Judy evidence as our poetry response underneath the market of value and exchange. There's also no link or reason evidence as our affirmation of the criminal, i.e. blackness and performance and sort of sociality, social life that realizes subjectivity is impossible so far as it exists in the enlightened era, but rather reproduce a sort of objectivity of noise that accelerates our politics to a state of exhaustion of non-productivity. This politics of exhaustion, the objective noise variegated down beneath it is a rupturing sense replaced sensation of play of ideas that are found in such a way that distance us from the line of relationality, which is how humanism was constructed patterns. Even if attuned to how blackness is captivated, does not deny our argument that blackness is an interdiction to subjectivity, means that blackness exists at the crossroads between performance and structurals, and then the killing fields are everywhere. Our Judy evidence says the nigga must constantly route to the device human capital that constantly determines our body. When a Patel evidence assumes this events disavows the nature of the academy, they constantly recodes blackness, which is proof. And when we try to scream our innocence, they can't conclude this process of denunciation. This is the call to humanism. Ultimately, the reason the negative loses their liberal democracy, the focus on the neediness of those abject bodies and the focus on those particular modes of suffering. So the world, they can say that we fix it. So they assume that we can fix the world without things like the structural antagonism, which means that they assume that they assume that their politics can break the line of coherence. Our Judy evidence articulates why we need to move away from that mode of production, and mode articulates that we need to move from that work insofar as we need to say that the recognition of social death of the world is not for us. So standpoint from no standpoint is a negation of the values that the world requires. So refusing to affirm is the withdrawal from the world because the slave is produced once they leave the whole of the ship. Now they assume that there is something that can save all of they assume that okay, this one. All right. Even if this debate is about the model of the even if this debate is about the model of the debate, then we have made your definition that we are contingent mode of freedom insofar as the personal performance contingency and structural violence that exists in the world is assumed by the liminal object. You have also conceded the ontology part of this, the entire ontology portion of this debate. You should probably err affirmative on that. Also, your switch debate is the reason why you relegated us to the killing fields insofar as Rashad is saying that we need to infuse identity and the resolution. So if we're winning, that the only reason that he says switch side debate is talking about the push and pull interplay that exists in the status quo insofar as blackness are relegated via neutralized political trajectory. So if we are winning, that the ground direction doesn't go your way, then if we can provide a model of debate that creates ground for both, then vote affirmative on the permutation. It's also a reason why even if we don't win that, then this evidence is just homogenizing niggers. There's also the reason there is a difference between antagonism and resistance. There is no cultural authenticity, resistance to capitalism. That was the Judy evidence, which means we are refusal of black as being. I've done all that work about, and they said the cross-examination when I said presumption proves that the affirmative doesn't do anything in that they don't have any competition. No, the argument is that the judges should vote for the team the best antagonized locality civil society. They say we have to prove we did something. We were impact turning this in so far as we should
should be a motive of non-productivity. Even if they win this argument, that our refusal is also a refusal to affirm, which is something. Speculation is also an independent reason to vote affirmative, externalized reason why they lose the debate, because they are the ones that always relegate us back to modes of regulation. Your definition of military presence is the reason why we meet. It's also a reason why we don't create a bad community, and we are also criticizing the notion of creating one particular goal that should be extended to all niggas. Authenticity checks on strategies is the reason you're losing, or treaty evidence says there can be no cultural authentic resistance. It proves that if VITA is doing something, if VITA is doing her shit in the open, then prefer the molten evidence that says we should be open and secret in the first place. It's also a reason why the fact that you put your shit on public display assumes that there is an outside for the cameras to civil society, which means that all of their interpolation arguments are inevitable. We don't start our analysis of blackness as objection. There is value insofar as that blackness occupies its own ontology, that we should refuse to affirm this world, which centralizes all, which in essence, which assumes all of their God arguments, where it means that there is no link between her shit and ours, but it's also it internally turns off the humanism arguments, because you are crying out to the judges saying, I am not broken in the crime, which is the crying of innocence. The Patel evidence I've done about it's also a reason Moses says it's something that says that we shouldn't do, that we must create a new world in which their politics becomes a masochism. That's a reason why their politics becomes a masochism relationship in the world in which we are met with violence, and we are always meant to stay on the plantation, in which we just affirm ourselves as gods on the plantation, rather than leaving the world in which the plantation here has value in the first place, which internally turns all of the humanism stuff. It's also the permutation means the alternative does not have a dissent to that, but we have dissent to the alternative. It's the reason why you lose this debate. It's also a reason why if we're winning the understanding of how blackness exists in the status quo, then it is a reason why it's the crossroads between performative contingencies. You mean you do not have any offense on the framework arguments. There's also a reason why you should prefer, also all the reasons why you say the permutation should prefer things like competing interpretations. Congregate enough too. The alignment project of modernity is disqualified to repress other ways of knowing that a rooted embodied experience will rally within a community of memory and practice disqualified knowledge is gender is femininity, and this episode violently dominated epistemology link knowing with Western regimes and knowledge. So people do not have the privilege of explicitness and the luxury of transparency, nor presumptive, more clear, direct communication, free and open debate on a level play. The field of the privilege not to take for granted scriptural sisters and the error and delusion of highly educated people who are just so driven in the reading that they fail to notice that there are other forms of skilled, intelligent, creative activities, such as theater and active politics. They scriptural the terms of the hallmark of Western imperialism posted about the case of modernity. What is written is understood as the eternal law, that which constitutes itself as Western and white texts are often inaccessible or threatening in terms of the regulatory powers of the state. The power of the law is written first of all on the backs of the subject. The hegemony textual needs to be exposed and undermine the text under the supremacy of Western knowledge system by erasing the past from the human knowledge, anything action that is unlettered healing and orchestrating in response to the imperialist project. Let's see the program.
We have 9.
Okay, wait, can we take our house to the research right now? Okay.
Yeah, check it out. Oh,
I hear you. Hold on. Am I the friends? I don't know.
Sorry, no.
Such a terrible photo.
They're probably gonna be saying some
Okay, I know,
bullshit.
right?
I look like.
Wait, we can't start.
I am kind of tired, but
Yeah,
I look
listen,
super
dude.
tired.
Oh, yeah.
I look really bad in this photo. Y'all were just so excited because you look so good in this photo. You pick one. You're like, no, you look fine. Let's use this photo. We look really good. This looks so bad. I hate you so much.
You look so good.
Why are you lying right in my ear?
You look so
You're
good.
lying right into the side of my ear.
Ben.
Hurts my soul. It's
Who
okay.
is that cutie right there on the right? That's all you.
Yeah.
Somebody shared it. What's that?
Who was that? Was that Andy?
No, never mind.
I was gonna say Andy quick with the share.
Andy Allen. So him and Dana together.
Hasn't that been for a while?
I didn't say it was bad. I was just saying it together.
Yeah.
That's
Thank
right.
you.
I'm so glad that Andy finally found the love of his life.
You know what I'm saying? I'm just searching for real. You know
that,
what I'm
like,
saying? You just
force.
gotta, yes.
Sorry. Just kidding.
Devin is such
Oh,
a.
shit.
You're an irritation.
Quincy, happy birthday.
Who's Quincy?
My baby.
Happy birthday.
Wow.
You know, actually,
Wow.
my little sister's name is Quincy. And her birthday is today, too. Oh, then, no.
What?
He said it was yesterday, so that was real awkward, Devin.
That was wild.
I forgot for a second.
That
Oh,
was
you know, you
really-
forgot for a whole day.
No, I didn't. Whose birthday?
It's like, thanks, man. Although it was yesterday. It's like,
No, it's
wow.
not.
What was that about?
I was a little off.
He said happy
I
birthday.
forgot for a second.
Damn.
It's still
Damn,
happy birthday.
Daniel.
Daniel.
Back at it again.
Look at Andy. He heard me. Hey, Andy.
He really?
I know Andy heard me. That's why I said it. We love you, Andy.
You're so annoying.
I am happy
My nigga.
for Andy.
Go. You see, that's the comment.
I know.
That's hilarious.
There's no shade to Andy. You know that.
What comment? Wait, what comment?
On the picture. I love it. Oodle love.
Before we start this, I just want y'all to know that I think that we should all just play Cardi B from now until the end of the tournament.
Amen.
You feel me? Like, I just feel like people have been out like playing Rihanna out. You feel me?
Word,
Cardi
word,
B.
word.
But y'all know.
I understand. I agree.
You know what I'm saying?
I don't
You look like you agree, okay? You look like you agree.
Oh, wait. Yeah, well, it's going to be Tia and the K.
Okay.
Y'all good? I won't go for T, but I will. But we will win the year. We meet argument on the interpretation. Probably is the reason why you linked to the K, because you have considered you're a form of contingent freedom, which probably means that you are trying to be free from something in the first place, which probably links to Quash's articulation that there is nothing to be free from in the world. Where we are winning that slavery never ripped anything from away from the blackness that we were always got to begin with. Probably the reason why you become problematic now. Our two offensive arguments that you have on this floor. First is that you indicate that suicide debate is a form of homogenization of blackness. No, you are wrong. We indicate that your articulation of blackness as resistance probably won't allow for homogenization of blackness to happen. Where that's i.e. that's impacted by the Quashi. That indicate that you allow for black culture to always be seen as resistance. There are a couple of impacts, but I'll do this on the case for the second impact argument to go for is the Judy evidence that indicates that we are from productivity that is problematic. No, you are wrong. There's also you have conceded the argument about the ways in which framework is about the ability to debate each other, which probably means that it's not a reason why we make you productive, but you have also conceded a reason why you are productive through your ability to indicate that you're a form of contingent freedom. It's the reason why your discussion about this means that you turn the Judy evidence to probably become the way in which you allow for commodification and the capitalist nature of modernity to subsume your political strategy is going to be a reason why you also lose this debate. Probably a reason why you are problematic. Now you indicate that you give ground for us. That's not a problem in the world. We're winning the link to the link to the K, but probably also the reason why you don't get permutation. I go to the K here. The only offensive answer to the link debate that happens in the debate is that Anthony indicates that they are a form of refusal, but the one of y'all concedes that one and our articulate one and our Quashi card, which is pretty good. That creates a distinction between refusal and quiet. Quashi indicates that Quashi indicates a couple of things. Quashi indicates that refusal is a form of silence that is based within and rooted within a protest. Quashi says that this assumption is one that affirms the white American psyche that decides to interpolate and make political blackness system. That's the only answer for simplifying blackness and locked into liberal human and humanist grammar, which probably is the reason why all of your reasons why you are refusal is only a way in which you bolster our uniqueness argument about the ways in which the ontology was never ripped away from us. Now, Lowell evidence is pretty damn good about the ways in which Western rationalism was what allowed for the lie to be told to blackness that that blackness is objectionable, that sensitivity was ever removed away from the weakness. That is problematic. There are a couple of impacts. This first, the response to my argument. I don't think I hear Anthony answer any part of this response to my argument at the beginning, where the notion of blackness objection fails to falls prey to the lies that are constantly being told us by civil society notion that ontology and social life was ever ripped away. This is a larger, unique question about the ways in which that is not answered. That's a no evidence. So no, it frames to value the debate attachment that their attachment and understanding of the self to that of the structure and structural antagonism ways of their bodies, and people will never be able to truly come into grips with the interior, which allows them to life within the psychological response. The second impact is the second psyche will politicize your movement. That is the entire one in our argument about the way in which it's not about your intention for the way in which the black chant becomes used, but the way in which modernity will use it in a way to as just simple to magnify the ways in which black resistance will always be seen as political, which probably is the reason why you are locked into the Judy articulation of the way in which you become a productive nigga, where the society rather quiet absolves their bleeding for this to happen. That the third argument, the interpolation argument, you indicate that interpolation is inevitable. No, you are wrong, because quashing indicates that interpolation only happens in the world where you are from a public resistance. You have conceded that the notion of interior can happen in public without, and can lead to changes without ever that being their goal of it, which is the reason why even all of your argument doesn't assume the call for the quashing and it becomes pretty damn good at the permutation. But I don't think there is an extension of a permutation coming out the 1 year, but I'm answering that this has this first is the trade-off argument indicates a theoretical trade-off that happens between black theorization and the script that is placed on two bodies, which is the reason why you listen to simplify. The second is that you don't get a permutation in this debate because it's by methodologies. You have to defend your methodology of structural antagonism against structure. Now your first argument on the case that you should vote F as a way in which if you win the theorization of blackness, no, you're wrong, especially in a world where you're conceding all of the quasi theorization of the ways in which blackness happens. The second argument is that you indicate that we should understand ourselves through the diaspora. That is our link argument. Well, indicates when you start with your understanding of blackness through the diaspora, it means that you come from a historical notion that allows for the commodification and allows for the same things like resentment to happen. The next argument you make is that the role of the judge is to vote for the best method to deal with antagonism. LOL, link. Our argument that role of the judge is one that is impact turned by the question. I don't think I have to do any more analysis of this, especially when you can see the one in our articulation about the ways in which an antagonism is one that assumes that you have something to be antagonistic towards, and first, which we indicate that the uniqueness arguments indicate that that's not true. Now you indicate that you and the pathologization of blackness. Our argument is that no, you do not. In the world where you maintain the white American psyche's ability to interpolate and to assume a universal model of black culture. The next argument you make, you go for is this Reeves and Judy evidence. I think that we are better articulation of the ways in which we're able to resolve for Judy through things like the alternative of quiet. The second argument is that Reeves is probably getting links harder to the ways in which Guashi indicates. Even if you are right that the structures out. Even if you're right that the structures say that we are objective people, our argument is we should not understand ourselves through that notion of that lie, because it allows for the same form of resentment to happen that was above. Now you indicate the only other offense is that we don't have a discussion of the ontological question, but no, you are wrong. The entire criticism is the way in which we understand the ways in which black ontology operates is that it was never a part of it, it was never ripped apart of it, but the interior, the ability to say that you are God is not a demand or a call for approval or recognition of the other, but that conversation that happens within myself is one that recognizes that I am God, whether or not the public experience of the public tells me that I'm not. You are living like we should engage in black chant, which is a public experience of refusal. The one in our Quashi card says that refusal is a form of silence protest, which is a form of resistance, which is that you link to this card. That's your only explanation of why you don't do it. That's our problematic.
Pretty easy way out here. You can vote out from presumption because it's neg. Not have a single diss out to the black chant 2 and C. As well as the tuner concedes that the black chant is a theoretical concept or epistemic or disorientation towards the very production of relationality. This pretty dope means that you leverage all the proximity claims out of the 2AC extended and the 1AR that were never answered out of the block, even in the 2AR. 2AR is a tie breaker, any confusion on links or alternative solvency of the 1AC specific harms, namely the resolution in nature, research, and the intersection of blackness means you vote out for Patel evidence is pretty discusses the way that research and the context of those grafted. The world abject or studied only through the brokenness and solvency is applied to the position is pathologized blackness as an inherent brokenness and must resist. That through calls against the i.e. black lives do matter the I and God, which is a politics of which a politics of lack which inevitably infers society's liberal telos of inclusion that never analyzes, dethrones, and removes the web of power that makes it possible for us to continuously have to affirm ourselves or affirm our innocence and capacity in the world. That politics becomes one masochism of bare life, where our affirmation of self and subjectivity is one that is inherently locked into the telos, locked into the matrix of the plantation, i.e. that we stay on the plantation, but we be quiet slaves. That we just say, I am a God, while continually producing the labor of a relationality. That there's a possibility for us to exist in this world rather than a wholesale refusal of the plantation or a move away from the plantation. This is a cope evidence that says that blackness operates as its own universe or its own ontology, and ontology against ontology, insofar as the recognition that we can never be a part of this world is one that inherently severs the master-slave relationship, insofar as it deconstructs the very notion of why we would have to affirm ourselves, because affirmation only becomes possible, only becomes necessary in a world where violence is interlocked unto our flesh, at the point where they don't resolve that structural question, even at the point where the 2 and R concedes that structural portion is the reason why the affirmative, the negative gets locked into a cycle of masochism or resentment. That was the term that was in the 1ER that I don't hear answered. This is the Reese evidence that talks about the ways in which their politics re-entrenches the liberal telos humanism that says that there's a possibility for subjectivity. This is direct to return to the Noel evidence that I don't ever hear answered, because it articulates that the politics of being is one that comes from the Enlightenment notion era of the human that was grafted onto the black, insofar as the black they never had a possibility for subjectivity, because subjectivity was a concept constructed by the world as an antithesis to that very position of blackness, which is the reason why the appeals to being is one that sutures itself back into the humanism which makes it possible for there to be a relationship to the world rather than severing of the world. They also have implicated the solvency or methodology, which is that we should be in production of black chan, be niggas. Our Judy evidence that says the shift moves away from the liberal logic of political remediation, replacing it with a language of criminality that seeks to be incoherent and unintelligible, unproductive civil society's need for us to justify its intervention in the non-human drama. This situates the locus of revolutionary politics on the axioms of power, i.e. the way that debate in academic spaces resuture violence onto the flesh, and how our political orientation or performance as blackness becomes a way to refuse that very system of value. The only argument that the only real link that they have out of the 2 R's that our meeting of the interpretation on T that we are contingent mode of freedom is a link to the quasi evidence. But one, I don't think they answer the nuance of the 2 AC's articulation of what freedom, what it means to me, the contingency of freedom. In that context, we articulate freedom not as a politics of political progression, progression or political aim that their quasi evidence articulates, but freedom as an idea against the very notion of freedom that there's a possibility for life to be present within the world and systems and semiotic value of civil society. We say that there should be a wholesale refusal of it, which makes it possible for freedom to not even have to be a concept that is rationalized, but rather for blackness to exist in its own universe, which becomes a reason why you can prefer the permutation. The only other argument that they make is that we don't get a permutation in a method debate. But one, this doesn't make sense, because this isn't a wide interpretation of a permutation, i.e. the 2 pedagogy should be coalesced, but rather that there is literally no competition between the alternative pedagogy. There is no competition between the alternative pedagogy and what it seeks to move towards, in the affirmative pedagogy of black chan, at the point where the 2NR even concedes that black chan as a theoretical concept is a good idea, that we just inform do it wrong is probably a reason why you can prefer the permutation, because I'm already making these distinctions. They say that we can seek the quasi evidence about refusal of silence and that leads to interpolation. But one, that don't ever deal with the Judy evidence, which already articulates that interpolation is inevitable insofar as the killing field is everywhere. Their politics assumes that there's a possibility for outside, that violence isn't already grafted onto us, regardless of the spaces, particular spaces that we occupy, which calls into question a link differential as to how their performance moves out of the politics of the status quo that grasps abjection back onto the flesh. They say that antagonism equals resistance to something which produces a problematic politics of relationality. But one, again, there's no answer to the nuanced interpretation of what it means to even be an antagonism. Resistance requires that we suit ourselves back into the world, that we affirm the very values of pathology, that we say no, we are innocence. Rather, antagonism to the politics of withdrawal via our moat evidence, which your own quasi-evidence isolates and withdrawals being necessary that says, hey, we should wallow in that criminality. What we criminality, we should be the fugitive who runs away from the very idea of humanism, from the very notion of subjectivity, because it is subjectivity, a white conception of demarcating blackness into a zone of regulation that makes it possible for violence to suture itself in the first place, at the point where they don't have any unique impacts or links for the affirmative, but we have impact terms that were never answered out of 2AC as a reason why you could prefer the affirmative to be a nigga.
Congratulations to both teams on making it to the quarterfinals. The decision is a 3-2 for Liberty. I thought that much of the offense by the 2NR was this sort of like internalized, ressentiment, and I thought there's gestures towards, this creates sort of external representations, but that perhaps create more violence. That wasn't really fleshed out for me, and I didn't really find much of it in the card. So on the basis of sort of internalized violence, I thought the AF ultimately won this argument that, trying to assert more value or, assert more humanity ended up playing into the very system of value, which most led to masochism, which most led to sort of internalized violence, but also maybe played into a larger economy of humanism that created the conditions for the violence in the first place, the external as opposed to just internalized violence. And so I thought their culp evidence was pretty good about it's not necessarily a reaction, and it's also this sort of almost transvaluation of pathology altogether, or this sort of presence of nothingness, which doesn't mean that it's not valuable. It means that it overthrows the whole regime of value altogether, such that whether there is or isn't absence, that's not a reason that there's anything wrong with blackness. It's a reason that there's maybe something wrong with the world. So I was sort of compelled that was sort of the best strategy against ressentiment, internalized self-hatred, whatnot, and then also provided the best sort of strategy against the violence of the world.
I also sat. So ultimately, I think that the affirmative is controlling, that it is necessary for us to challenge the pathologization of blackness via the reproduction of academic scripts of blackness. The black chant is ultimately a mechanism for withdrawing from those circulations to begin with. The problem for me is that this seems to fit pretty well with your Cauchy evidence in the manner that it discusses the process of interpolation, insofar that it is describing that interpolation or subject formation is about what we put out, not just what we put out, but what we think of how others think of ourselves. And as such, I think that the affirmative has provided a decent internal link for the disruption of those narratives, and thus has a mechanism for moving blackness from being this scripted, from the script that civil society imposes upon it towards one of radical, chaotic nothingness, which, as the culp evidence describes it, as a presence, not as an absence. So I think that they're able to get around some of the articulations that their active, quote, resistance is something that would fall into the traps of creating blackness itself as negation. The second problem that I have is a question of how the alternative functions, and that I find that your descriptions of the link direction as well as how the alternative solves is kind of confusing to me, in that at times you are saying that the whole point of the alternative is that it avoids this notion of public expression because it focuses exclusively on the interior, but at the same time you are making arguments about how intent doesn't matter because society will interpolate yourselves to begin with, which was, I think, what the affirmative was trying to get at to begin with. So I just don't know how the alternative can avoid it. Yes, it may be an expression of the interior, but why does that stop civil society or the academic canon from engaging in those practices of scripting? And so I think that the affirmative has provided at least a more cogent explanation for how we get there, i.e. Just radical non-productivity, refusal to validate the claims of value that are imposed by civil society. The third problem that I have, and this is the last thing, is just kind of the truth claims about how civil society operates and interpolates blackness. You have made a pretty good argument about why it would be maybe dangerous to believe in it, but I don't think that you're doing a lot of work in describing either an alternative theory for how it functions, or doing more with what I think is like a winning piece of evidence with this Noel evidence of just why they are flat out wrong, about how we have to recognize that these scripts imposed upon blackness come from a historical semantic that prescribe things that may not necessarily be even close to true. And I think if there was more work on that, then I could start seeing some of these link terms start flipping in the opposite direction, and I would see an easier path to voting negative. The long and the short of it is that I felt that I thought that the description of the affirmative was falling more and more into kind of like what the Cauchy evidence was trying to say, whereas I don't think you're doing a good enough job of explaining those like small distinctions on questions of things like interpolation that would allow me to be like, yeah, definitively, the affirmative's notion of blackness as nothingness or moving towards non-productivity is the same kind of resistance that the Cauchy evidence is discussing.
Okay, can I go first since Amber? Okay. All right, so the role of the judge that I have, or the role of the critic that I have for this round, is which method better acts as a structural antagonism to civil society. That's the only one that's extended in debate. I think that you all could have done a way better job of articulating to me what it looks like if a structural antagonism is a problem, or like it links to the criticism, then I think that you need to generate another type of role of the ballot. But even given that, I think that there are some weird parts of this debate. I think that from the get-go, it was kind of weird to me how you all handled T, which is like saying that we're a contingent form of justice. I think that that was problematic for me, and I think that ultimately it leads to a lot of offense that Vida is getting on the criticism. I think that the question that you all leave for me at the end of the debate is who is a worse form of humanistic politics, the form of quiet or the black chant. Originally, I thought I was voting affirmative. I think that I really liked your characterization of the AF being merely just the Black Lives Matter movement, saying, no, we are valuable, no, we are valuable. But I think that this 1NR piece of Cauchy evidence is lit. It's lit. Like, it says that we're not saying no, that we're valuable. We're literally just repeating that we're valuable. I think Cauchy is really good at being like, it's not about whether we express, and I think this is what Vida is getting to in the 2NR, the level of specificity that the Cauchy card gets to. It's not about whether we express ourselves or not. Regardless of if Vida expressed herself or not, that mapping happens, but it's like a total abstaining from the system by not articulating ourselves in public spaces that I think that you all like lose given like the framework debate and how that plays out. I float this argument as a pick, and so I think that they solve large portions of the AF without risks of like this public sphere dissent. And I don't think that in the 1AR there's a clear articulation of the ressentiment stuff. I don't think that that's a larger portion of the debate. I don't know if that's because like of the we're flowing straight down or whatever, but like that just has to be a lot more clear, especially when that's one of like the links in the debate. This productivity question, I just don't think that the 2NR went for it in the right way. I think that the only link that I really have you going for is the ressentiment stuff, and I think you need to handle the turn better, which is like, yo, you are Black Lives Matter. I think that I get like the implications of what you're saying in the 2NR, but if you don't articulate the Cauchy card like effectively, I think it leads to a closer debate. As far as the permutation goes, I didn't have the permutation in the 1AR, or it wasn't big enough for me to be like, yeah, you get a permutation, but I don't think that hurts or like, you know what I'm saying? I think that the Culp and the Reeve stuff is great, but I don't think that you get access to it, given that like Culp is literally just like Black life is not lived in the world. Okay, that's cool, but I don't think that means that like you don't ascribe to something via antagonism. Like you being like we need to be that structural antagonism assumes that we have to be oppositional to something. I don't think that you necessarily solve for Moten because you're oppositional to something instead of just abstaining from the world.
Alright, go next. I agree with some of that, but I kind of think that with, and this is not to say that the 1AR was like the only problem. I think that there needed to be front-loaded more of the offensive stuff at the top, as well as putting more of the perm articulation at the top within the lens of this Cauchy evidence or whatever. And I think that would be a much more better framing for me. It's just like, there's things that I want y'all to say, but it's just like not there that you could say, that it's just like more so, but fuck them, like, and the politics that they represent, and to say that those particular things are what makes us keep chasing this like hopeful understanding of the world that we'll never get to, and that, you know, we should be a little bit more skeptical of like the way of just going inward to say, oh, we should just like, you know, affirm ourselves regardless of what society says to us, as if that works for everyone, and it probably doesn't, because some people will still be affected by those images regardless. And I think that, you know, a way to answer this resentment stuff is to say it's inevitable, and also it's probably good for, you know, people to engage in like revengeful or like lashing out at particular systems, because that helps people survive better, or it helps them at the end of the day, if they don't have any access to the political or access to things that can let them change the levers of power, they have their bodies at the end of the day. And that's something that gives them a certain type of hope that, you know, might be different from what the negative is talking about. And I see a little bit of this pickish stuff, but I just think that there just needs to be like flat out more flagged offense coming out of the 1AR, but I see in the 2AC, there is a lot of like uniqueness claims and a lot of other offensive things that, you know, could make it more into the 1AR that could be cross-applied from the framework or whatever. But I think that needs to happen, like more so like this good nigga stuff. I really think that that's something that, because that's what the system really wants. Is somebody's like, oh, we're gonna throw all this shit at you, but you know, you're just gonna turn the other cheek and just say inwardly, oh yeah, I'm still good, I'm still beautiful, right? That's what they want you to do because that's comfortable, right? So I think that more so saying that you are still a projection of like, you know, what civil society wants. They want you to say that so that you don't have the risk of this bad nigga that's gonna lash out against you, which, you know, is probably a good thing in some instances. So I think that that's, you know, one of the major places that, you know, I voted in on. But I think if the perm route is going to be what you're going to go for, I think you need to be articulating yourself in the 1AR more in lines with their evidence, but also saying that their alternative is not one that can do this particular politics by itself. But in the long run, I just kind of think that in this debate, you should just flat out just impact turn them in a sense. Well, not impact turn, but just turn all their particular understandings of the world and say, no, that's just bad. It's not good. It's too hopeful. Society's gonna look at you and laugh and say, ha ha, you're just a good nigger. You go in the house. Like, I think those are the things that you need to be doing against this particular thing. And then also, even though this is a different type of framework, why don't you just like cross-apply that flinch of reading framework against you and then kicking it and say, oh no, we're not gonna go for it. Like, I think that is something that can be used offensively against you to say, that's suspect in the way that we look at their politics, because their shit was not really, it may have like included some anti-black stuff in it, like as a, you know, the theoretical stuff in the framework, and it wasn't like straight up white like framework, but it's still something that uses those terms, i.e. switch side debate, as something that we should engage in, which you can still cross-apply offense from that onto, you know, being suspect of their alternative, and how we internalize those things based off of the understanding of switch side debate, because we'll always have to have those warring things inside of us of having to switch sides on these issues, but at the end of the day, what do we lose as, you know, a way of understanding the world when we have to always switch sides or understand those things, as opposed to just saying, oh, I know the other side, but I don't necessarily have to be the other side, right? Because they're still holding up a political understanding of switch side debate, regardless if it comes from Rashard or not. Like, it's still something that's passed down from a understanding that is supposed to put teams like y'all in your place. So I think that's more the offense I think should come out against their overall stance, and just say, like, in a sense, fuck the perm. We're just gonna say you're bad and you should lose.
I don't have too much more to add to that. I ended up voting because there's, I don't think you get access to the reputation. It's not forefronted enough for me to give you the reputation. I tried to go back to my flow and couldn't find it. But also the issue of whether or not we internalize these issues. I think that everybody has just conceded what blackness is, and that it is that darkness that thing that's just gonna get killed. That's what it is. But when Vita and Tim come up and they have these pieces of evidence that are talking about how we never lost value in the first place, I personally need the debate to be about how we did. We lost some stuff along the way. We did. We might be God, but we lost some stuff along the way, and that's true. And the removal from society would, if done properly, the removal from society would mean that I no longer. You can reject the scripts as well as remove yourself from the quote unquote plantation, and how that functions. Does that make sense?
I think one more thing about God. Why don't y'all just say like no? Like why should we have like a understanding of ourselves as God? That's like the same mentality that was used to make us obedient to like a lot of these systems. Like, and to say that you are God, it only like proves that you've internalized that particular like mentality. I think that's something you could say. I mean, I know people might be Christian and stuff like that, but I mean, this is a debate. You can say like, sorry, God, but I just I don't think that's like a way that we should orient ourselves. And then also, I don't like your issue, the stuff with God and saying that you are that. I don't know how there's sacred versus secular stuff going on. Like maybe y'all can make that some type of dissent to this stuff to say that we should not start with like some type of sacred understanding of how we should resist things or how we should spiritual. Like no, we need to look at the secular here and now because that's where people are getting shot and killed. I can't just say, hey, I'm Trayvon Martin, I'm God, but I just got shot. Like that doesn't do anything for me. Like you can say you're God all day long, but that white person that's it don't. But like also those individuals that want to internalize and say, yes, I am God, I am everything, I am enough, all that good stuff. Like at the end of the day, that don't pay your bills. That don't change the way the system is.
Can I say one thing?
Yeah.
And I think that like the closeness of this debate came down literally just to the Kwashi evidence, and I think that you all just need to articulate better what it means to be quiet. But I think that you all like this small argument that you're making I think it's like towards the last minute of the debate where it's just like that shit will happen regardless, and I think that that's kind of what Devin is saying. I think there's a piece of lore evidence out there. It's in her transformation of silence into, you know what I'm talking about. And when she says we speak whether or not we are afraid, right? Like violence is still going to be accrued to your body regardless of if we reveal ourselves in public spaces or not. And I think that that's the route that you need to go a lot earlier in the debate. And I think that that's a lot more of what the 1AR needs to sit on. I think you just need to turn T. I don't think you should perm T. I think you should turn it and be like, that's the shit that we were talking about, right? That need for productivity, that need for us to have these contingent forms of justice or these contingent forms of solving for shit when literally like that is, and I think that it's like mixed in there, but I think that the 1AR articulation of the T is like, yo, we are contingent. You know what I'm saying? Like, we are contingent in terms of our...
She gets most of her links, for real, off of that being contingent when they decided to kick T.
I was just trying to say that, like, Blackness